Why facts don't always change minds. The backfire effect. In a completely logical world, individuals who run into evidence that obstacles their ideas would certainly initially review this proof, and afterwards change their ideas accordingly. In fact, this is rarely the case. Rather, when individuals run into evidence that needs to cause them to doubt their ideas, they often decline this evidence, and enhance their support for their original stance. This takes place as a result of a cognitive predisposition referred to as the backfire impact. The backfire impact is very important to comprehend, given that it influences both your capability to change other people's viewpoint, in addition to your capacity to process details rationally on your own. In the following post you will find out much more concerning the backfire effect, comprehend why as well as when it affects individuals, as well as see what you can do in order to mitigate its influence. What is the backfire result? The backfire effect is a cognitive predisposition that creates people who come across proof that difficulties their beliefs to reject that evidence, and to strengthen their support of their initial position. Basically, the backfire result suggests that revealing individuals' proof which verifies that they are wrong is commonly inadequate, as well as can really end up backfiring, by triggering them to support their original position more highly than they formerly did. The backfire result is a subtype of the verification predisposition, which is a cognitive predisposition that can trigger people to decline information which contradicts their beliefs, or to translate details in a means that validates those ideas. Instances of the backfire result. The backfire result has been observed in a number of scientific research studies, which considered different circumstances. A research that analyzed voting preference showed that introducing individuals to adverse details about a political candidate that they prefer often triggers them to raise their support for that candidate. A study which took a look at mistaken beliefs regarding politically charged subjects found that offering people exact details about these subjects typically triggers them to believe in their original misunderstanding much more strongly, in cases where the brand new details contradicts their pre-existing ideas. A study which checked out parents' intent to vaccinate their youngsters, found that providing parents that are against vaccination information showing why immunizing their kid is the best strategy, they occasionally become more likely to believe in a web link in between vaccination and autism. A research study which took a look at people's objective to vaccinate against the influenza, found that giving people who believe that the injection is dangerous details refuting misconceptions on the subject, they often wound up with a reduced intent to vaccinate. In general, the backfire result affects people in several domains. It has a significant influence when it comes to people's widespread assistance of various pseudoscientific ideas, and it clarifies why attempts to disprove those beliefs are often inadequate, though as we saw above, it can also affect people when it pertains to any sort of idea. Why individuals experience the backfire effect. Individuals experience the backfire impact as a result of the process that they experience when they come across details that contradicts their pre-existing beliefs. Essentially, when an individual encounters details which suggests that their current ideas are wrong in some way, they really feel intimidated, which triggers them to generate a range of adverse feelings. This is particularly likely when the ideas in question are important to their self-concept, which indicates that they stand for an important part of that individual's identity as well as ideological background. The negative feelings that individuals produce wind up adversely impacting their capability to approve the corrective info that they experienced, by increasing the chance that they will reject to process it properly, as well as by increasing the likelihood that they will try to locate methods to discount it. The reality that individuals commonly try to discount and also decline restorative info that they experience is what leads them to often experience the backfire result, especially in their effort to deny restorative details. People will usually first attempt to recall pre-existing expertise that they can make use of in their arguments, which can trigger to enhance that knowledge in their minds, and as a result enhance their assistance of their pre-existing beliefs. In addition, when people argue against undesirable details highly sufficient, they typically end up with more debates to support their position. This can cause them to believe that there is even more proof on behalf of their point of view than there was before they were presented with the undesirable evidence, which subsequently can cause them to sustain their initial position much more strongly than they previously did. How to lower the backfire result. Lowering other people's backfire impact. The backfire impact is a cognitive bias, meaning that you can use basic debiasing strategies in order to counter it properly. Such approaches consist of, for instance, boosting individuals' awareness of this predisposition, using simpler descriptions, and also transforming the way you present info. One research, for instance, checked out individuals' opinions relating to government welfare programs. The scientists located that most of individuals were highly misinformed concerning the nature and also scope of these programs, and that individuals who were the least informed about them generally shared the greatest degree of self-confidence in their knowledge. The scientists discovered that offering individuals with realities concerning these welfare programs did little to alter individuals' point of view regarding them. In a follow-up study, the scientists uncovered that tweaking the means they presented the facts made people respond more favorably to the brand new evidence. In this follow-up, people were first asked to approximate the percent of the nationwide budget plan that is designated to well-being. They were additionally asked what percent of the spending plan they thought ought to be invested on welfare. Posturing these inquiries back-to-back led individuals to contrast their perception of fact with their preferred level of spending, prior to they were informed what section of the spending plan is invested in well-being in reality. This implied that most of them needed to refine the truth that not only is the federal spending less than they thought, however it is likewise lower than the section of the budget plan that they believed should be designated to welfare. Although this comparison is something that individuals need to have done naturally if they were processing the info logically, the only point that got them to do this in reality was to inquire to explicitly mention just how much they believed should be spent on well-being. As necessary, people only responded positively to the corrective information when they were asked this initial inquiry, which led them to internalize as well as accept the fact that they were wrong. This suggests that when you're speaking with people in an initiative to change their stance on something, you require to remember that how you present information is just as vital as what details you provide. If you want to prevent a backfire impact, you need to show the new info in a non-confrontational fashion that enables individuals to internalize the brand new realities and reach the verdict that you desire them to reach themselves. Furthermore, if you truly intend to get your factor throughout, then keep in mind that assaulting the other individual for having the wrong opinion, despite just how ill-informed it may be, is unlikely to function, given that it will probably simply place them in a defensive attitude, where they're not ready to approve brand new proof. This is specifically crucial to bear in mind, since if people view you as uncivil or hostile, they are most likely to doubt the validity of your argument, even if the disagreement itself is rational as well as well-founded. Decreasing your own backfire result. In addition to decreasing the backfire effect that other individuals experience, you can also use your understanding of this prejudice in order to reduce the level to which you experience it on your own. This requires being essential of how you process new information, which will enable you to assume in a much more logical means as well as to make better choices. The fundamental way to reduce your own backfire impact is to be familiar with its impact, and to modify the way in which you react when you run into information that negates your beliefs. Especially, when you run into such details, you must not ignore it outright or instantly attempt to discuss why it's wrong. Rather, you must first try as well as consider it with fresh eyes, as well as assess it based upon its own benefit, without contrasting it to your pre-existing theory on the subject. Yet, you can use the strategies that we saw above, as well as other debiasing techniques that can help you avoid this predisposition. These techniques rotate mostly around obtaining you to refine new details in a conscious, reasonable manner, rather than responding to it without effort, which aids make sure that you will certainly give brand new info the opportunity that it is worthy of. Caveats regarding the backfire result. While the backfire effect plays a significant role in just how people process brand new details, that does not imply that it influences every person at all times, as well as studies reveal that there are situations where the backfire impact doesn't affect individuals' believed process. This does not necessarily oppose various other findings on the subject, given that also researches that reveal support for the presence of the backfire impact demonstrate that its influence is highly variable, as well as depends on different elements. Because it's hard to anticipate when the backfire effect will play a function in people's assumed process, it's usually a good idea to assume that individuals will certainly experience it, as well as to act appropriately, in terms of just how you present new information. On the whole, while the backfire result can influence people's believed procedure in numerous circumstances, it's not always there. Whether people will certainly experience a backfire effect relies on a selection of aspects, and because this can be difficult to predict, you need to usually beware, and act in a way that takes its possible influence into account. Related cognitive predispositions. Along with the backfire impact defined below, which is often described as the worldview backfire effect. There are two various other kinds of backfire impacts that can create individuals to strengthen their support for a stance when provided with evidence which opposes that position. The excessive backfire impact. The overkill backfire effect is a cognitive predisposition that creates people who experience an intricate description to deny it in favor of a simpler choice, as well as to often likewise strengthen their idea in the simpler choice. The overkill backfire effect might cause people to strengthen their support for a basic myth when provided with an overly technical clinical refutation of it. The familiarity backfire impact. The experience backfire result is a cognitive bias that creates individuals to bear in mind false information far better, and also to bear in mind it as being true, after they are shown rehabilitative details that is supposed to expose it, as a result of the boosted direct exposure to that misinformation. For example, the experience backfire impact can trigger individuals to strengthen their assistance for a certain piece of false information each time they hear an effort to refute it. Summary and also final thoughts. The backfire effect is a cognitive bias that triggers people who run into proof that obstacles their ideas to reject that proof, and also to strengthen their support of their original stance. The backfire effect has actually been observed in numerous situations, such as in the case of individuals supporting a political candidate more highly after unfavorable details about that prospect is launched. It commonly plays a duty in people's idea in pseudoscientific concepts, as in the instance of individuals' belief that injections are highly unsafe, and also must be stayed clear of. The backfire impact occurs largely since when people suggest strongly sufficient against unwelcome info, they end up, in their mind, with even more arguments that sustain their original stance. If you're attempting to describe to a person the concerns with their position, you can mitigate the backfire impact by presenting new information in a way that encourages the various other individual to think about and also internalize that information, as opposed to denying it outright. There is variability in regards to when people are influenced by this result, as well as there are scenarios where individuals don't experience a backfire result when they are revealed info which negates their beliefs. However, considering that this irregularity is hard to anticipate, it's far better to assume that the backfire result will certainly play a role in individuals' believed procedure, as well as to act appropriately.